Democratic Congresswoman Julie Johnson, thank you so much, and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Always good to be with you, Jack.
Nice to see you. So you're running in the 33rd Congressional District, newly drawn. You've got 3 opponents, including Colin Allred. Why should Democratic voters select you over those 3?
Effectiveness, consistency to democratic values, and working hard to get the job done. You know, I have worked very hard while I've been in Congress to deliver real results for people. People are really struggling. And when the votes were on the line, when my opponent, Mr. Allred in particular, had a chance to stand with democratic values or stand with Republicans, he stood with Republicans. And that is not helping my people. An example of that is when he voted to allow Republicans to investigate nonprofit organizations. There are a lot of organizations right here in North Texas that rely to help serve LGBT community, the immigrant community, the homeless, people who need real help that the Trump administration has targeted, in large part because of votes that Mr. Allred took. I voted to stand with immigrants. I voted to stand with the rule of law and make sure that due process means something in this country. He voted to allow mass deportations without due process. He voted to allow women who've been victims of sexual assault and violence to be deported without due process. That's not who we are as a country. Values matter.
I want to ask you about an issue that has come up during the campaign, stock trades. And you've been criticized after reports came out that you traded stock from Palantir, which is a company that the Trump administration uses to track people here illegally and then deport them. The reports say you bought it January 15th, days before President Trump took office, and again on February 12th. So talk to me about why that happened and what your thought is about the criticism.
Well, you know, I've been very upfront and very transparent about this. I've had independent money managers that have managed my stock and investment portfolio. I've made no independent decisions about what we buy, what we sell, anything of the sort. I have been very clear as supportive of a stock trading ban. I signed on to it right away, and I also voluntarily began the divestment process of any and all of my actively traded accounts, which required me to sell that stock. When I realized we had it, we sold it. And so, you know, this is a disingenuous argument. This is an attempt by Mr. Allred to create a smoke screen to deflect from his failed record of Democrats. But the reality of it goes as simple as this. We don't want members of Congress trading stocks. Okay, I'm going to sell my stocks. How dare you sell your stocks? How dare you, trade your stocks? It's a ridiculous argument. And I've been very clear. I've been upfront. I fully support a stock trading ban.
And so have you divested all of your individual stocks? The reason why I ask is that there was a couple of reports last year by notice.org that said you purchased individual stocks as late as August of 2025, and the report said that you were a top 2% in Congress. So you did sign on to this. What was your decision? First of all, are those reports accurate? And number 2, what sparked your decision last year? Because this was before this became an issue this year. What sparked your decision to divest?
Well, because I support the stock trading ban. And so I have divested all of my actively traded stock accounts, 100%. And so I think it's important to actually do it. It's not required of me. It's totally voluntary. There's no rule in Congress right now that requires members of Congress to divest. All we're required to do is report. I have reported everything I've ever done in total compliance with the law, and I've gone a step further in that I have divested. And so I have divested from all of my actively traded stock accounts. And that's all I can do. You know, I have independent money managers that manage all that. I don't make any of those decisions myself.
And you're fully divested now?
Yes, I am fully divested from all of my actively traded stock accounts.
So let's talk about the next potential government shutdown, which could happen, based on the Democrats, the demands for changes to the Department of Homeland Security. ICE is already funded under the One Big Beautiful Bill, but other departments under DHS, if the government shuts down, we could be going in a similar situation what we saw before. TSA agents not getting paid, also Coast Guard members, FEMA. What do you say to that? Is it worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, those are critical services. Don't get me wrong. You know, I think our TSA agents Airports, we need to have a functioning system. But what is happening with ICE is an existential crisis in this country. It's an existential threat to the safety and the preservation of our constitutional democracy.
How so?
Well, because they are abusing the Fourth Amendment, they are invading people's homes, which is that's guaranteed in our Constitution to be free from unreasonable search and seizure from your federal government. They are breaking down doors, just kicking in without any warrants. They're deporting people without any judicial process or any hearings whatsoever. They are terrorizing people in this country. And now we're hearing reports that the administration wants to send them into our electoral process to try to instill fear to restrict the right to vote. It is unacceptable, and ICE must be shut down.
Do you believe in abolishing ICE?
You know, I think we need immigration, our custom borders patrol system. You know, we need to have staffing at our ports. We can't just have a wide open immigration system. And, you know, it was working just fine until Trump became president, but he has taken ICE to a new level of constitutional abnormality that's unacceptable. Where he has pushed this in these rogue patrols, just willy-nilly pulling people out of their cars who are U.S. citizens and beating the crap out of them and then depositing them an hour away or holding them for 3 days or whatever the case may be is unacceptable. It's against the law and it cannot be allowed to tolerate. And I think Kristi Noem needs to be impeached, and I've called for her impeachment.
And I know some have called for her to be fired.
Yeah, fired, impeached, regardless. She's head of this organization. Accountability matters, and she's leading this in a way that is unacceptable, and she needs to go.
But you don't want to abolish ICE, or you just want to reform it? Because some have called for just get rid of it altogether. You're not saying that.
I'm not saying that, but I am saying that we need to completely restructure what is happening. You know, and I am not for advancing any further funds until that happens.
And one last question on this topic, and that is, you said before that you indicated that Trump has changed everything, but one thing what we have seen is that the number of people coming in illegally has plummeted.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? I mean,
well, I think that's good. You know, we definitely can't have a wide open border like what was happening. I do think under the Biden administration, they failed on immigration policy, 100%. And so, yes, we want people to be able to come here legally, but what Trump is doing in terms of eliminating our protected status, eliminating the legal protected status of people who are fleeing, like what's happened with Haiti, is unacceptable. You know, we have an economy here in this country that requires an immigrant workforce. It just does. We've had so many industries really suffer economically because of what Trump is doing, because it's not targeted, it's not realistic, and it's destructive, and it's discriminatory, and it's racist, and it's bigoted. But what we need is a reformation of the visa structure. We need to take a comprehensive overhaul of how immigration is handled in this country. We want people to be here legally. There are great people in this country who are working hard, contributing, not committing crimes, just raising their kids and doing everything right. And we want to make sure that they can stay here legally.
What did you make this week of the campaign, Colin Allred going after, really angry with James Tallarico, calling him out on his social platform? What do you make of that?
You know, I stayed out of that this week, and I'm staying out of it now.
All right.
I'm focused on my own race.
All right. Are you expecting a runoff?
No, we're very excited with where we are. We have unbelievable amount of support. You know, I have endorsements from all the corners of the earth in this race, from national endorsements to local endorsements to organizational endorsements who are campaigning. When we get out there and campaign, people have our signs everywhere. We're getting overwhelming amounts of support. I'm very confident in where we are in this race.
And this is obviously right now, because this district is newly drawn, it is a Latino majority district. Mm-hmm. And I've seen you and others courting the Latino vote. Why is that so important?
Well, I think their vote matters, you know, and they're an important constituency, not only in the 33rd district, but in the state of Texas. And the Latino vote has historically undervoted, and we have to recognize, and as a politician and as an elected person, I want them to know that I care, that I'm very concerned about issues that affect them. I want to be a good partner, and I value their vote.
And what is your main message to voters as far as your priorities if you get another 2 years in Congress?
Well, I'm laser focused on making your life better, on healthcare access. I have legislation designed to do just that, that I have filed. On affordability, I have legislation designed to do just that. On housing, I have legislation designed to do that, just that, to save our democratic values. I'm fighting really hard for that. So I'm on the front lines with real solutions, not just rhetoric, to solve and address many of the problems that people face.
So give me some examples.
Well, let's say housing, for example. One of the things I've heard from folks is that we can't break through this rental cycle to be able to go into home ownership. And so I have a bill that's designed to allow credit. Who knew that you couldn't get a credit rating and a credit history for paying your rent on time? So my bill will allow people who pay their rent on time to develop a credit rating, to develop a history, to develop an ability to convert that great rental payment into home ownership for mortgage qualification. That's just one example, because people want to go down the road to fulfill that quote American dream. They want to own their own home, but we have so many barriers in place, and that's one example where I'm directly affecting a problem that my district needs.
And healthcare.
Prior authorization reform. I've been a leader in that for sure. Obviously fighting really hard for the Affordable Care Act tax credits as well. 100,000 people in our district rely on the Affordable Care Act for healthcare. So, healthcare is a situation where it's not just who has access, but it's also utilization of the care you have. I have legislation to address the shortage of workers, for example, in terms of apprenticeship programs to get more people into the employment in the field. So quite a bit of stuff, and I do that in a bipartisan way. I have a bipartisan healthcare slate of legislation with Republican Mike Kennedy from Utah, and we partnered together because we actually want to get it passed.
Let's talk about foreign policy a little bit. Should the U.S. bomb Iran again if these reports continue of the Ayatollah's regime massacring, killing its own people?
I think what's happening in Iran is a crisis of epic proportions. I haven't made a decision on whether or not the U.S. should use military force, such as bombing the people of Iran at this point. I haven't made that decision yet. So.
And in Gaza, do you support the U.S. and the international plan to rebuild there and to force Hamas to disarm?
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, we want the Gazan people to have their homes back, and we want the people of Palestine to have a place. I've always supported a two-state solution. I would love to see an independent Palestine and an independent Israel being able to live side by side in harmony. I think that's what the world would love to see, and I would love to see that outcome.
Do you think Hamas will disarm?
I don't know what Hamas will or not do. I hope they do.
And then in Venezuela, last month we saw the U.S. forces capture Nicolas Maduro, bring him to the United States to stand trial on federal drug trafficking charges. A, did you support that? And B, what do you want to see happen now in Venezuela?
There's no doubt that Nicolas Maduro is a bad man, but I do not support our country invading the sovereignty of another country, capturing their leader, and then stealing that country's natural resources and selling them for the benefit of us. If another country did that, that would be declared an act of war on the United States. If another country came in and kidnapped the President of the United States and took them across into their country, our country would view that as a direct act of war. And that is not how we do business. That's not who we are in the United States. There are other ways to go about addressing the bad men of the world like Nicolas Maduro, other than how it was handled.
And what would you like to see happen now? I mean, it's happened, so what would you like to see happen now in Venezuela?
Well, I want Venezuela to be able to have a free and fair election and, be able to elect their own leader and run their own country. That's what I would love to see.
Congresswoman Julie Johnson, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Of course.